Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Glad you could be here tonight. We got about 30 people. We may have twice as many as that in time, but I think we better get started. Thank you for coming on time. I'm Patty Shepard, and this program is hosted by the Social Action and Outreach Committee of the Winchester Unitarian Society, both of which I'm a member. And I also want to thank our co-hosts, which include the Mystic Valley Area Branch, NAACP, the Winchester League of Women Voters, and also the Network for Social Justice. Wanted to let you know that things are set up so that you can't unmute yourselves. We do have 65 people registered, so we need to have you communicate through the chat. So you can submit comments and questions in the chat at any point, and the hosts will be able to access them. There will be a question and answer period midway between the presentation and then at the end as well. So you should have plenty of time to have your questions answered. Let's see, and I think that we can go right on to me being very happy to introduce Reverend Vernon K. Walker, who is a campaign consultant for the Yes on 2, the voter choice group that's been working on this issue for years. So please welcome Vernon.
Thank you so much, Patty. Hello, all. You know, in the midst of all the turmoil and chaos that's happening, it's so good to see so many of you. I am hippopotamus glad and peacock proud to see you all staying safe, staying healthy, and having a warm spirit, and ultimately taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. You could have been on anybody's Zoom, or you could have perhaps been doing anything, but you are here with us. So we certainly do appreciate you taking the time out to talk about a very critical issue that will be on our ballot on November 3rd. So again, I am peacock proud to see you all, and peacock proud to be, and just to see so many smiling faces. And I have the distinct privilege of introducing Alex Arsenault. He is the field director and for the Yes on 2 campaign, and I think he's doing a fabulous and tremendous job. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Alex, and Alex, please feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Vernon. Great introduction there. Always a pleasure to hear you speak. Hey, folks, this is Alex Arsenault, as Vernon said, the proud field director of the Yes on 2 campaign. And I will echo Vernon saying that I am very grateful and impressed that so many of you have chosen to come here tonight and educate yourselves about ranked choice voting and to hear about our campaign and how you can get involved with us. Without further ado, I am going to start a slideshow presentation that will go over ranked choice voting and will explain the issue and explain our campaign and tell you a little bit more about us. During the presentation, if you do have questions, like Vernon said, go ahead and pop them into the chat and I will address them. We will have a brief question time in the middle of the presentation and an extended question and answer time at the end. So there we go. Yeah. Yes on 2 for ranked choice voting. So this is the agenda of our presentation for today. We're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves, and then we're going to describe the problems that exist with our current voting system. And then we'll take a short break, and then we will follow back up with the solution to the problems of our current system, which is ranked choice voting. We'll tell you about our coalition, the people that support us, and then describe how you can help out if you want to get involved in the campaign and help us win this November. We are a nonpartisan, citizen-organized ballot initiative campaign to bring ranked choice voting to Massachusetts. And when I say that we are nonpartisan, I really mean it. We are supported by Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, Green Party, and everyone in between. likes ranked choice voting because it is good for everyone. We're not here to advance one ideology over the other. We're not here to say one party is better than the other party. We're here to say that the institution of democracy is fundamental to a government of the people, by the people, and that we must improve the institution of our democracy to have a better representative government. A little bit about how we got here today. It is a lot of work to qualify a ballot initiative and actually have it become a law that can be voted on. Our volunteers collected over 128,000 signatures to qualify us for the November ballot. That is the largest ballot initiative campaign in state history. And we also, this spring, became the first ballot initiative to qualify with an electronic petition in the history of the United States. When COVID hit, everyone was saying, "Oh, that's it. There's going to be no ballot initiatives this year that can't get the signatures. There's a huge pandemic." Well, we proved them wrong. We got online. We filed a suit in court and got the right to petition on the internet, and we did it, and we got the signatures and submitted them all successfully. So just getting to this point has been a history-making process, and we're going to continue making history by winning this November 3rd. A yes vote on 2 supports the use of ranked choice voting in primary and general elections for federal and state offices beginning in 2022, but not for municipal elections and not for the presidential elections. So that includes state rep, state senate, Congress, U.S. Senate, like Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey's seats, and governor, secretary of state, state auditor, state treasurer, and state attorney general. It doesn't include municipal offices because the state laws don't govern how municipalities vote. It's up to each municipality to institute ranked choice voting. And actually, Cambridge is one municipality in this state that has had it since the 1940s. And it doesn't affect presidential elections because that's a little more complicated in terms of how electors are elected versus how candidates are elected, so it's a little bit different area of the law. So this is our problem today, which is that we have a situation like this in the 4th Congressional District. We had 8 candidates running in a race, and they all supported ranked choice voting because they knew an outcome like this would be inevitable. We have a situation here where 22% of voters elected the winning candidate, and 78% of voters did not choose the winner. So to say that this is a majority representation of the people and the majority will of the people, I think is a pretty undemocratic statement. We clearly have an issue where in a crowded primary, the vote can be split very thin, and the vast majority of people are not responsible or having their voice heard in the election. Jake Auchincloss himself said after the election that he would have rather won with majority support. And like I said, everyone in this race supported ranked choice voting because no matter what, there was going to be an outcome like this on election day. And this just happened earlier last month during the Democratic primary. And it's not limited to that. In fact, in 3+ candidate races in Massachusetts, going back 20 years, 41% of the winners were elected with less than a majority. So we have a situation where very frequently people are winning without majority support. And we believe that majority rule is fundamental to the institution of a democracy, that we actually need to represent the majority of people in our government to be governed as effectively as possible. So these are the problems that we have today. You know, our current voting system, plurality voting, fails to create majority winners. It creates a spoiler effect, which can result in people winning an election that are not the most popular candidate and potentially the least popular candidate. And that spoiler effect discourages candidates from running. People don't run third party and independent because they're afraid of splitting the vote and actually helping out the candidate that they dislike the most. Sorry, my cat is sneezing in the background. It limits, and that limits our choices at the voting booth and rewards negative campaigning, which all comes together to yield voter apathy, which I view as a critical problem in our democracy today. People see that the system doesn't work well, that their voices are not properly represented, and they give up and they stop voting, and we have low voter turnout. So let's describe ranked choice voting, and let's talk about a solution to this problem. In a system of ranked choice voting, instead of just voting for one candidate, you can rank as many candidates as you want in your order of preference. And no one wins a ranked choice voting election with less than 50% support. So this is a ballot today. You've all seen this. A lot of you are going to get one of these in the mail sometime this week, probably. But this is what a ballot would look like under ranked choice voting. So instead of just ranking your first choice candidate or the candidate who you think is most likely to win, you can rank your candidates in order of preference: first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice. So this is an election where under ranked choice voting and our current voting systems, the outcomes would be the same. If someone gets over 50% support in the first round of votes, so what you do is you count everyone's first choice first. If someone gets over 50% support, they win outright, and it's just like how elections work today. But where ranked choice voting kicks in is this situation, where you have a candidate that is potentially going to be elected or would have been elected under our current voting system with only 34% of the vote. Under ranked choice voting, that candidate would not win outright. Instead, the candidate that received the least number of votes would be eliminated, and everyone who voted for that candidate would have their next choice counted, and that'd be distributed to the other three. Still, no one has over 50% of the vote. So what happens is now the next lowest ranked candidate is eliminated, and someone is able to win with over 50% support. So instead of having an election where we elect Barbara, who is actually not the most popular candidate in the race, we're able to have a series of eliminations and second and third choices being counted, where we find out that that Abby was actually the preferred candidate of the majority of voters in this election. And this is a much more democratic outcome, where we actually are electing the candidate that was the preference of 56% of voters, instead of the candidate that was just the first choice pick of only 34% of voters. So I just want to break real quick here and make sure that everyone understands how ranked choice voting works before we continue and describe the benefits of the system a little more. If you want to enter into the chat any questions that you have about ranked choice voting, I'd be happy to just answer them now, and then we could move on with the rest of the presentation. Patty, do you see questions in the chat? You're muted there, Patty.
I see a few questions, since FYI.
Oh, you can see them. Okay, good. I can't for some reason, but that, as long as
Go
you can
ahead,
see them, Vernon,
Yeah, go ahead.
let them rip.
All right, yeah, okay, I'll read one. These are questions that came in early. In light of some discussion I saw on our Arlington listserv, 600 subscribers, I think someone wondered about RCV logistics for hand-counted ballots, mail-in. Is that an issue? What some say as a very tough complication of counting votes. What some see as a very tough complication of counting votes.
Yes, so that's a great question. Under ranked choice voting, you don't hand tabulate any of the ballots. The ballots need to be scanned in with a computer, and then the computer program tabulates the results of the election. So in this situation, we would need to update some of our election infrastructure just to make sure that every town has the ability to get their ballots scanned in so a computer can tabulate it. Because you're right, hand counting it would take a really long time and it would be really hard. So that would be handled by a computer, which would be able to do it instantly. I just had a question come in from Tucker Smith, who actually sent me one privately, so you wouldn't be able to see it, Vernon, but I'll answer it. Tucker asked, is Maine the only state that has ranked choice voting currently? Yes, the answer to that question is yes. Maine is the only state that currently has ranked choice voting. However, a lot of other municipalities do use ranked choice voting. In Massachusetts, the municipality we have had for a long time with ranked choice voting is Cambridge, but actually East Hampton and Amherst also just voted to enact ranked choice voting. And in 2019, New York City actually voted to have ranked choice voting as well. So it is spreading, but currently Maine is the only state with it. Marilyn asks, oh, I'm getting a good number here. So folks, you can also send these to Vernon so Vernon can read them out loud and I can answer them. I'm getting a few here. You know what I'll do? Is I'll copy this over so everyone can see it. So Vernon, there you go. If you want to read some others off.
Sure. Thank you so much. Someone said, someone asked if you have to scan the results into a computer, do we have to worry about hacking?
So the results wouldn't be transmitted through the internet. They would, and I can only speak to how Maine has chosen to do it. The Massachusetts Secretary of State would have to devise their own program for getting the ballots tabulated securely. But in Maine, what they do is they scan in all the ballots and they save the ballots onto a physical hard drive. And that physical hard drive is actually physically transported to the Secretary of State's office, where they're all loaded up together and tabulated in a central location. So that way it's not being sent through the internet and it can be interfered with in some way, but it's actually being physically transmitted on a hard drive to a central location for tabulation. I imagine a similar process would be implemented for security measures in Massachusetts. And in Maine, it has worked well. They have gone through a few primary and general elections with ranked choice voting, and that has not been a problem.
Thank you for that. We'll take another question. Someone asked a question. We would love to know who's funding any No on One efforts. Following the money can be instructive.
Yeah, so actually the interesting thing is that so far there's been very little funded opposition against our campaign. There is a No on Two ballot question committee that has been formed, but according to their most recent campaign finance report, they've only raised $250, which I believe was an individual donation. So I'm happy to say that no one is spending money to fight us. All we have to do is educate people about ranked choice voting and we'll win. There's a bunch of other questions here. I think let's finish the presentation and we'll address the rest of these. These are great questions. Keep them coming. And then, so let me screen share again and we'll address them all at the end because I think some of them could be answered in the rest of the presentation. So we have now what we're talking about is the solution to our problem with plurality voting and the benefits of ranked choice voting. So in a ranked choice voting election, from a voter experience, you don't have to worry about voting for a spoiler. So right now people say like, oh, don't vote independent, don't vote third party. It's a waste of your vote. They can never win. You're actually helping the person you don't like by voting for the person that you like the most. In a ranked choice voting election, you don't have to vote out of fear. In a ranked choice voting election, you can vote for who you want to win, not for who you think will win. So you can actually make your true preference heard and not worry about throwing away your vote, because if your candidate can't win, well, then you can have your second choice counted, which allows voters to express their true preferences. In ranked choice voting, you don't actually have to rank your votes. If you don't like ranked choice voting, you don't have to do it. You can just list your first choice vote. You can rank as many or as few candidates as you want. And that gives you more voice and more choice and a stronger voice at the ballot box. Right now, how we vote, you can ostensibly only say who your favorite candidate is. But under ranked choice voting, you can state your preference of candidates in the election. And that is actually a stronger voice to have in the political process, because you're actually saying more in the election and having your voice heard in a much louder way. So talking about improved elections, all the winners in a ranked choice voting election enjoy majority support. There's no concerns about vote splitting, which leads to people being elected who might be not the most popular candidate to as bad as the least popular candidate in the race. And also it allows fresh voices a chance to compete, because now people can run and participate in the election outside of the two-party system and be taken seriously. They're no longer a candidate that's just like running for no reason because they have no chance of winning. You can now have more candidates participate in elections that could have a reasonable chance of actually winning and participating in the representative democracy. And one thing, and this might be my favorite thing about ranked choice voting, is that it incentivizes candidates to find common ground and campaign less negatively. A great example of this is the Democratic primary for governor in Maine in 2018. I believe it was an 11 candidate primary, and it was the first primary for governor's seat in the history of the country. And there were two candidates in that race that were very progressive, Betsy Sweet and Mark Eves. And normally, under how we vote now, they would be fighting for the same voting block. You could only the people could only vote for one progressive, so they're going to vote for one or the other, and they would split the vote. But because they had ranked choice voting, Betsy Sweet and Mark Eves were actually able to travel around and campaign together. They campaigned cooperatively, and they said, rank me first and her second, or rank me first or him second. And I think that's just great. You don't have a situation where candidates are attacking each other, dragging each other down, splitting the base. Imagine if we had that in the presidential primary in this election, or even in the Republican primary in the last election. You would have a much more civil and cooperative situation between different voting blocks rather than an antagonistic one like we've seen recently. So this is a little bit more about the campaign. And I love this image here because it really shows how nonpartisan we are. We have two governors that are honorary co-chairs of the campaign. One is a Democrat, one is a Republican, Deval Patrick and Bill Weld. We have people from a really diverse background and a diverse sections of our society that have come to represent the campaign. We've got Carrie Healy, a former Republican lieutenant governor. We have representatives from Bain Capital and the Boston Celtics. We have the president of the Boston NAACP. We have people from Harvard Law, professors of Harvard Law that are honorary co-chairs for the campaign. And we're supported by a huge number of, sorry, I skipped a slide there, of elected representatives. Like I said, we have Deval Patrick, Bill Weld, but it goes further than that. We're talking about Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Kennedy, Ayanna Pressley, Seth Moulton. Most of the congressional delegation of Massachusetts supports ranked choice voting, including the highly probable new congressperson who's taking over Kennedy's seat, Jake Auchincloss. The Secretary of State, Bill Galvin, the highest election officer in the land, supports ranked choice voting. We have over 100 state reps and state senators, many mayors, and a broad diversity of organizations like Amplify Latinx, League of Women Voters of Massachusetts, Progressive Mass, several unions represent us, and the state Democratic Party. So a lot of people who have spent their lives improving democracy and representing us in a democratic fashion look at ranked choice voting, even if they're not of the same political background, and they can say, hey, this is actually a great idea, let's do it. So real quick before we go to the Q&A, this all comes down to winning in November. We have to get, in the spirit of ranked choice voting, over 50% of the votes to win on election day. So what it comes down to is we need your help to help educate people about ranked choice voting. Like I said before, we don't have really organized opposition. There's a few people that don't like us and they put together a ballot question committee, but they're not people that we're worried about. What we're worried about is a lot of people don't know what ranked choice voting is. So I would encourage you to consider supporting us any way you can. You know, we're calling voters 5-6 nights a week now, educating them about ranked choice voting. We're writing letters to the editor, we're raising money, and especially, you know, one thing that's very easy to do is to display a lawn sign. So please consider visiting our page and picking up a lawn sign near you. We have over 150 locations across the state that have lawn signs ready to be picked up. And if you can't pick one up, we'll deliver one to you. So that concludes the slideshow presentation. So let's continue with the Q&A, because this is the part of the experience I really enjoy the most, which is interacting with you, the audience, and answering what questions you have. A lot of these came to me. Well, you can probably see them as well, Vernon. So you probably see it.
Oh yeah, feel free to address them whatever order. If you already have them, no need for me to call them out. Okay, I can call some out. Someone asked a question. I would be interested to know if RCV would delay results of an election and how much extra would it cost this? How much extra cost would this add to an election? Would people be less likely to vote if a number of candidates need to be ranked? Well, that's a different question. So number 3 is, I would be interested to know if our ranked choice voting would delay results of an election and how much extra cost would this add on to the election?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first answer is yes, it would delay election results by several days. You know, Ireland and Australia have been using ranked choice voting for over 100 years. And when I was up in Maine working on the ranked choice voting campaign up there, we had an Irish activist who was really gung-ho about ranked choice voting in America. And he said, you know, I don't get why you Americans are so impatient for your election results. Like, we're used to waiting 3 or 4 days to get the election results, and it's no big deal. So the answer to that is yes, and we would all have to get a little more patient with our election results. It would take a couple more days to get them. In the event that someone doesn't get 50% of the vote outright. If on election night we find someone has majority support in the first choice picks, that person just wins and it's like a normal election night. But if we need to do ranked choice voting and tabulate the results, like I described earlier, you have to get all the results from all the towns to a central location securely and tabulate them in a secure fashion. It does take a couple days. So we would have to get a little more patient with that. Regarding the cost, there would be an upfront cost of we're not sure, probably a few $100,000 or a few $1 million to just make sure that every town has the equipment needed to scan in the ballots. Most towns have that equipment. Some small towns don't, and it'd be up to the Secretary of State to make sure that everyone had up-to-date equipment for scanning in the ballots. Beyond that, there is a small cost of probably maybe tens of thousands or a few $100,000 per election of just transporting all the materials and tabulating the votes in a central location. Again, that isn't spelled out in this law. It's up to Galvin, the Secretary of State, to put that system together. It would have some costs, but the costs fundamentally are very minor. When balanced against the benefits, a few $100,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but spread out across the entire state, it's not that much of the budget. It's actually a very small percent, very fraction of a percent of the budget. So it doesn't cost much, but it costs a little bit.
And it can never cost enough to improve our democracy. It can never
Exactly.
cost enough.
Yeah, if we're going to spend money on something, it should be that.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays people spend money on all types of things in all types of ways. I think if we make an investment and to improve the state of our democracy and to bring civility back into politics, I think we should look into that if we can. Someone asked the question, is there any way for an independent auditor to verify the results?
Yeah, so
keep the questions coming, y'all. Keep them coming.
Yeah, the results can be verified. I mean, the paper ballot still exists. We are still filling out paper ballots, so the paper trail is there. The computer software that tabulates the election results can be audited and looked through, and the paper ballots can be collected if that needs to happen. So yeah, it's just as transparent as an election we have now.
Thank you. Someone else asked a question. English as a second language, for people who have English as a second language, how can they understand how this process works? Can they understand how this process works?
That's a great question. So yeah, there would need to be an education campaign. The state would need to distribute literature and make information available for everyone to understand ranked choice voting. And that could be made available in many different languages, and I expect it would be. So yeah, that would rely, on the government just making a clear explanation of ranked choice voting available to everyone, regardless of what your language was. But I'm confident that would happen. In Massachusetts, a lot of municipalities have a lot of ballots and official communications happening in a huge variety of languages. So I don't doubt our ability as a state to communicate the process to anyone that it would need to be communicated to.
Let me pull a question. There was another question, and this was already answered, I believe. What election does it apply to? This relates to state and federal elections. Just to reemphasize what Alex had mentioned, state and federal, not local, not municipalities, not local municipalities. I actually don't see any more questions that you did not. Actually, there is one question I see that has not been asked. Question number 2. I'm looking for some short, clear answers to give to people walking by the sign about how ranked choice voting gives more voters more choice. So how can we succinctly and with as much brevity as possible, how can we explain that, Alex? How can we suggest to people in a short fashion that this is what it means by giving voters more choice?
Yeah, so my elevator pitch for ranked choice voting goes like this. It's a voting system where instead of just voting for one candidate, you can rank your candidates in order of preference, and no one wins with less than 50% support. That's it. It's that simple. If they ask how it works, I just say you rank your candidates in order of preference. If no one gets 50% support, the bottom candidate is eliminated, and the people who voted for that candidate have their next choice counted. And that process repeats until someone wins with majority support.
And this is what I like to say. Oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Alex?
Just one other thing I want to throw out there is one thing I'd like to say a lot is, vote for who you want to win, not for who you think you win. So many people these days don't end up voting at some point or another in their lives for the candidate they prefer the most because they are afraid of splitting the vote. So don't vote in fear. Vote for who you want to win, not for who you think will win.
The analogy that I say, y'all, is it's like going into an ice cream shop, and you have your different flavors, different strokes for different folks. Some like cheese and some like bacon. Some like Coca-Cola and some like Pepsi. Some like seltzer water and some like none. But I say, oh, if chocolate is your favorite or vanilla is your favorite or Rocky Road is your favorite and they don't have it, you may be likely to go with your second choice. And then if they don't have your second choice, which may be strawberry, then you go with your third choice. More choices, more empowerment. Someone asked a question. Do we have bumper strips, bumper stickers or bumper strips available? And then this person noted, in Cambridge, preliminary results are available by 11 p.m. election night.
Yeah, so we don't have bumper stickers, unfortunately. We do have lawn signs. So I'll just post this in here again. That's the website for if you want a lawn sign, head over there. That's how to best show your support for ranked choice voting. You can pick up a lawn sign near you, or we'll bring one to you.
Mm-hmm.
And the note about Cambridge, that's true about Cambridge. And the reason they're able to do it right away is because it's just one city. So all the results are scanned in and tabulated at Cambridge City Hall that night. But for a statewide election, you have all the city clerks and all the town clerks all across the state gathering and gathering the votes and scanning them all in. And that all needs to be securely transported to a central facility where the tabulation is done. And that's why it takes a little longer.
Thank you. Someone asked a question, more of a national, but statewide as well. Had this question been put on ballot in many states? They said, I get it, but it seems complicated and maybe overwhelming to people who aren't that involved in the political process. Just curious if ranked choice voting is a growing trend. It is hope. I hope that it will spread nation. Is it hoped, or is it the belief that it will spread nationwide?
Ranked choice voting has not been voted on very often on a statewide ballot in America. The only recent vote on it statewide was in Maine, and in Maine it was actually voted on twice because they passed it by majority support, and then they repealed it. The state government didn't like it, so they repealed it. And we did, and actually this is how I got involved with ranked choice voting, is we did a petition to stop the repeal and put it back up to a vote. And when they voted on it the second time, it won by twice the margin that it won by the first time. So that tells you that people actually like it more when they use it. The other big win for ranked choice voting in America recently was New York City. It's a city with a population greater than all of New England, and they adopted ranked choice voting by over 70% support for their city elections. So the answer to that is yes, it's rolling right along across the country. And that's what Yes on 2 is all about. We're the next domino in a long line of dominoes of ranked choice voting being implemented across America. Then that is why this campaign is so important to keep the movement going.
And also to add, it's also on the ballot in Arkansas. I believe Arkansas is voting for it this fall. I will double check, but I believe Arkansas is also on the ballot.
It was on the ballot in Arkansas, but I think it came off for some technical issues. It's the other ballot state that has it is Alaska.
Alaska, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Alaska.
So it is also being voted on in Alaska this year.
That's what I meant to say, Alaska, and I got confused with Arkansas.
I see a question here that I don't think we've addressed. It's very simple. Are there any disadvantages for people who don't vote beyond their first choice? So if people are voting, should they think twice about just voting for their first choice?
The way I see it is that you are more empowered when you rank your candidates. So if you only vote for one candidate, that's totally fine, and it's up to you. You should feel okay with voting how you want. But from my perspective, if you only vote for one candidate, then you don't have an opportunity to have your second choice heard. Maybe you just don't have a second choice in the election, and that's fine. Maybe you only like one of the candidates, and the rest of them you don't have a preference opinion on. But if you do have a preference opinion on them, go ahead and put your second choice in there, because you never know. If your first choice can't win, your second choice can count. So take advantage of that opportunity if you want. But if you don't, it's also fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would encourage definitely everyone under a ranked choice voting system to state their preference, and if they have a preference of candidates, first choice, second choice, third choice, then vote that way. So your voice can be heard as loud as possible.
Someone asked a question, what happened in California? Oh, there's a fire going on right now in California. But
I think you're referring to a situation where ranked choice voting wasn't used. I think it was repealed in San Francisco. I don't know the details of that repeal very well. I do know that over the course of American history, several cities, and ranked choice voting is not new. It's been, like I said, used in Australia and Ireland for their national elections for the last 100 years. And in America, some cities have adopted ranked choice voting, and some cities have repealed it, and some cities have kept it. To me, it seems that in situations where it's repealed, ranked choice voting can sometimes threaten more established and better funded candidates, because it creates a situation where people who are from outside the kind of dynastic political discourse, or who don't have a huge amount of money, can still garner first and second choice votes, because people are not afraid of voting for them and wasting their vote. So maybe sometimes there's a situation where political powers to be don't favor the system and choose to repeal that. But I would say that doesn't seem to be the case in Massachusetts. We have both our senators, almost our entire congressional delegation, and a lot of our highest constitutional officers have endorsed the campaign and are in favor of ranked choice voting. And I think they have done that because they can see that it is truly a better system of representation.
Someone else asked a question. Where would the necessary funds come from, and what is the timeline for implementation?
So the funds would have to be appropriate. I don't know what fund the funds would be appropriated from. This bill doesn't spell that out. That'd be up to the state legislature. That'd be up to Bill Galvin, and it would be up to Charlie Baker to some degree. My guess would be that the funds come from the funds that fund the election writ large, and it would just need to be increased some amount. So not a huge amount to fund and the changes that be required to implement ranked choice voting. The timeline is that ranked choice, when we win this November, ranked choice voting will be used in elections in 2022. So there would be over a year to get it all implemented. The state primaries for the 2022 election happen, I believe, the state primaries happen in September. So you would have from this November to September 2022, which is just shy of 2 years, a year and 10 months to implement the process, which is ample time. A year is plenty of time to implement this. So I'm not worried about a short turnaround there. I don't see any more questions with question marks here.
I see one at the end that I think I can answer. Someone wants to know if they're able to share the presentation with others later. So as you may have noticed, we are recording tonight. And my plan this week is to get it up on YouTube with some help from our church administrator. And then I will be emailing everyone that registered for it and letting them have the link. And I'm assuming it's fine with our presenters if we share this far and wide, right? So.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
If you don't get it tomorrow at 9 o'clock, don't hold your breath, but I'm hoping to get it out in a couple of days if everything goes smoothly, and please do share it. So.
And Patty, I can attest, Patty is a woman of her word. When she says something, she does it. There's no wavering, there's no iffy, there's no vacillation, no vacillating. When she does it, she does it. And if she says she'll do it, you can take it to the bank. It's good as gold.
Thank you.
Someone else Oh, can you describe the phone banking process, training? They got 2 question marks.
Oh yeah, so our phone banks are great. We have 30 to 50 people. It's on a Zoom call just like this. You know, we all mute ourselves. We get on the phone, we're calling voters, and we're talking in the chat about how the calls are going, and they go well. You know, no one hates ranked choice voting. It's people either know about it and they like it, or they don't know about it yet, and you just need to educate them. Our trainings are very thorough. We have a 15-minute training on every phone bank. So we'll get you up to speed. Our system is simple to use and very effective. We're using a predictive dialer, which dials dozens of numbers at once and connects you with voters. So we're talking to a whole lot of people in a period of time. They're every weekday except Friday now from 5:30 to 7:30, and Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 1. So they're 2-hour phone banks. We get you trained up, we get you on the phones, and we make it a fun time. You know, we're all in this together. I wish, you know, obviously with the pandemic, it'd be nice if we could all get in a room and do it together, but Zoom's the next best thing. And there is some real camaraderie there. You know, we are talking and chatting and having a good time and talking to voters. So yeah, it's great. And please, if you have the time, hop on over to our website, sign up for a phone bank or sign up to volunteer. And help us educate the electorate about ranked choice voting, because ballots are arriving today, they're arriving tomorrow, and they're arriving every day from now until election day. So we need to get on the phones and get out there and educate as many people as possible about this important reform.
Maybe we'll take one more question, because this is kind of getting down to the question, unless other folks have more questions. Someone said, can you explain why a vote for an independent candidate has more weight in our ranked choice voting? I just don't get it why it is not thrown away and more than it is now, especially if another candidate gets over 50% right away.
So that's a good question. If someone gets over 50% under ranked choice voting, they just win because they're the candidate that, you know, fairly won with the majority support of the people. A vote for an independent candidate means more under ranked choice voting because right now, often if you vote for an independent candidate, that candidate doesn't win. And what happens instead is some other candidate wins with less than 50% of the vote. Under ranked choice voting, if you vote for an independent candidate, well, then you can rank your second choice, whichever candidate you'd like. And if the independent can't win, you can still have your second choice counted. So that way you're not throwing away your vote, but you're also still voting your true preference. So you're being honest in the election and saying, this is my first choice candidate. But if your first choice candidate can't win and there's no majority winner, well, hey, we're going to count your second choice. And that will be used in determining who is actually the most popular candidate in the race.
Thank you so much for that. So far, there's no other question. I don't know if Patty, you see questions, or if Alex, you see questions, but on my end, I don't see any more questions with question marks.
I see one. What are some of the unintended consequences and problems with ranked choice voting? In my opinion, there are none. The opposition would say, oh, this is too complicated. Oh, people won't understand this. They won't be able to rank their candidates. You know, the people that don't like ranked choice voting tend to be very pessimistic about human intelligence. They feel that people aren't going to be able to have as nuanced as of a political opinion as would be required to properly rank your candidates, or that just the system itself is too complicated to understand. And to that, I say, look, Ireland and Australia have been using this for over 100 years, and it's been going great. Those are very well-functioning democracies. The Irish and Australian people are not magically smarter than Americans. Maine's been using this for the last 4 years. It's been going great there. You know, if all these other places can do it without problems for a very long period of time, longer than any of us have been alive, then I would say that the people of Massachusetts are certainly capable of doing it as well. And so is anyone else. The other question that was supposed to is, why have the Republicans not endorsed ranked choice voting? Well, we do have the endorsement of a former Republican governor and a former Republican lieutenant governor. The state party hasn't endorsed it, but they also haven't put ranked choice voting on their no platform. They just haven't taken a position on it. Charlie Baker has not taken a position on it. He's not against it. He hasn't said he's for it, but I say yet. I'm still optimistic that he'll come out for it soon. And if he doesn't, well, that's his choice.
Excuse me, I see another similar question. What is the problem with the legality of ranked choice voting and why it might be overturned? I know this isn't the question, but my comment is I know that there's been some cases testing it in Maine that have all failed as far as I know, but those have passed all those tests. But is there some legality that you're aware of that would make it a problem?
Well, I'll say this. So to address what you just mentioned is that ranked choice voting has been dragged into federal court multiple times in Maine and challenged there. And every time the federal judges have said, no, this is fine. This is totally in line with the American Constitution. There was a kind of obscure legal question raised by a Tufts professor a few weeks ago that was saying in a report saying that there might be a constitutional issue with the state constitution, but we reviewed this very thoroughly and we don't believe that that constitutional problem is legitimate. And what I can say to that is that every ballot initiative in Massachusetts is thoroughly reviewed by the state attorney general office before it is allowed to go to petition. And the state attorney general office reviewed this ballot initiative and officially certified it as being constitutional. So, I mean, if the state attorney general office gives us a stamp of approval, I think that's as good as gold in my book. If there's a question about it, maybe something will have to be litigated at some later date, but it's not something that we're concerned about.
Thank you for that. I don't see any other questions.
Yeah.
Do y'all see any other questions?
I don't.
On your end? Well, the question I have, can you spell out and lay out how people, and you may have said it again, but as we're, I guess, coming to the conclusion, can you spell out and lay out how people can get involved?
Yes. So this is the most important part, which is, in terms of getting involved in the campaign, let me share this link again with everyone so that I can be sure it's been clearly communicated. So here's where you can collect a lawn sign. Sorry, I wrote that in wrong, actually. So, and to volunteer, you can sign up there. So those are your important links. If you feel like you can donate to the campaign, you can also donate there. Fundamentally, if you go to our website, everything about getting involved in the campaign is very easily accessible there. And I will say, like, so much can be done for our movement with your support. You know, we are right at the cutting edge of democracy reform in America, and we're so close to winning this, and we're going to win this, but we're going to win this because hundreds and thousands of grassroots activists have come on board with the campaign, and they've called and they've spoken with and they've educated voters about ranked choice voting. In your life, in your daily life, please make it a mission to just educate 3 people about ranked choice voting who don't know about it yet. You know, this is all about spreading the word, spreading knowledge. We are a campaign that is fundamentally optimistic about human intelligence, and we're a campaign that is based on voter education. We're not fighting some nasty fight with a big corporation or some highly politicized issue. No one's even bothering to fight us. We're just out there educating people about a very important and crucial democracy reform. So we are all a very positive campaign to be a part of. We're all happy doing what we're doing. And come on board and join us, have a good time, and change the world.
I agree.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Tell Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. Stand on the hills, shout it. Stand in the Berkshires, shout it. Stand on the islands, shout it. Stand in the city and shout it. That ranked choice voting is a dramatic way to revolutionize our democracy and to revitalize our democracy. So no matter where you stand, just stand. Because someone said that if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. So just stand.
Great.
Well, we'll turn it over back to you, Patty, for the conclusion of this. I think this portion is concluded. We'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Well, and all I want to say is a big thank you to everybody for coming and paying attention and letting your friends know, make sure they vote, all that sort of stuff. You guys all know, but thank you for coming. We're very glad you were part of this, and wish me luck getting this thing up. Although someone suggested I should also get a hold of WinCam, so maybe it'll end up there instead. We'll see, but we'll make sure we do what we can to get it out. So thank you. I think if I push this little red button that says end, everybody will go away. Are you all ready? Thank you very
so much,
much.
Patty.
Thank you both presenters. Were wonderful.
All right.
So we'll see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, take care. I'm going to push it. If I can find my cursor. There we go.